well, look who we have with us today. There she is. Brandeis, it's
Howdy.
good to see you. And we actually haven't had a chance to really catch up since Rising Above. But first of all, for the folks who are not aware, hey Darren, is that you're going to be our newest trainer. We hinted at this during Rising Above on the 10-Minute Trainer Network, and you've got some content in progress. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, well, and so congratulations. We all love Brandeis. Brandeis has started a company called Brandeis Speaks. I have no idea where you got that title, but it's perfect. Brandeis, listen, it's here we are finishing up first quarter. We're coming out of the mess that always is January, February, March, and you're kind of continuing the conversation from Rising Above and the CNAs, the client needs analysis, and listen, I'll share one as we turn it over to Speed. I had a great conversation with someone that I'm working with who recently was doing a CNA, or it was kind of a revised, maybe an annual business review, and was a little hesitant to re-engage existing clients. But in sitting down and asking these questions, he came out of it saying, man, they were so engaging. They so appreciated it. So much good came out of it. So I'm thrilled that you're delivering this message today and continuing that conversation. And Speed, you and we talk CNAs and business reviews a lot, but important topic.
Absolutely. The Queen is here, and she's yours to fly. Great to have you on board.
Thanks, guys. I
Hey,
love
wait, hold up. Here's how. No,
Yeah.
no. 3, 2, 1. Brandeis Speaks.
Brandeis Speaks. Yes, she does. Yes, she does. I majored in talking in class in school. None of my teachers would be surprised. But as we talk about the client needs analysis, that is the fulcrum on which everything pivots. I got a nice little screen here I'm going to try to share with you. So we want to level up the client needs analysis, kind of a gaming term, right? So many of us have been using kind of the same 20 questions for years. It's outdated. Many of our folks, I know that you either overthink or underthink your questions, and it is possible to do both at the same time and try to come up with questions, and then you come up with something pretty generic that actually isn't that helpful. So when you look at the client needs analysis, before you worry about what questions to ask, okay, because you're off focus already, like, oh, what are some good questions, right? Don't worry about that yet. Don't worry about that yet, because you got to think about what's your goal in a client needs analysis, regardless of the customer. It can be an auto dealership, it can be a med spa, it can be a credit union, it could be a florist, it could be, doesn't matter at this point, because you have a goal with every client needs analysis that you need to achieve in the course of this. In fact, you have 6 goals. And so some people think, well, it should, my client needs analysis should only be like 20 minutes, or it should be 10 minutes, or it should be short, or it should be, and the thing is, it takes as long as it takes, because you want to achieve certain goals. And the 6 goals are this. One, you want to build rapport with that person, right? And the best way to do that, start building that relationship, is to,
Hey, Brent,
so,
and actually, I'm
you
here
have
for
certain,
the.
the 6 goals you want to achieve, right? I mean, who needs to be fancy? This is about solving problems. You want to build rapport, so you want to ask smart questions. You want to create desire in the client to want to buy from you. It makes it easier selling. And so the more they talk and answer smart questions that make them go, that's really interesting, the more they want to do it. They start thinking about all the things they want the customer, if we're doing advertising, the customer to know, right? And you've had that. It's like, what are you trying to achieve? And they tell you like 9 different things. And then they want them all in the same ad. Bad idea. And that doesn't matter if it's digital, print, broadcast. You can't put it all in one, because then it doesn't work. That's not how advertising works, right? So the way to create desire in the client is to get them talking about these things, but then ask more about each thing. Because then the more they tell, the more they realize they want to say about it. So it really helps you head toward like an annual contract, because one thing at a time. They want 9 things, people to know 9 things. That's 9 months of advertising, regardless of format. Now, I'll talk more about that in a minute. You certainly do want to uncover their needs. Their needs. Generally, what they tell you when you first ask the question, if you don't ask specific questions, is very generic needs that are not helpful. And I'm going to touch on that specifically. But You got 3 things to do already. My questions need to build rapport, create desire, definitely find out the needs. I want to discover their budget. And I don't necessarily want to say how much money you got, because they're going to lowball you by up to 35%, right? They're going to lie to you. You need to develop the campaign. That's why you need to ask deeper questions, because you're the one putting together the campaign for them. We're the experts, right? And again, whether it's digital, whether it's print, whether it's media, you're developing this. So you need the information from them on what to put in, what you're going to message to the consumers who use your product, right? And then you want to learn their talking points. What do they say when a customer comes into their shop or calls on the phone? What do they tell them? I guarantee it's not that they're family owned and operated. It just isn't, right? So those are the 6 goals. You might want to write them down when you go in. And when you first develop your questions, look at them and say, do these questions help me achieve these goals, right? So you're developing that rapport. How about them Cowboys, right? I'm in Dallas, right? That's not one of them, okay? So the goal of the CNA is not to get the sale. And that's one area where salespeople make the mistake. They want to go in and do a quick, short CNA, just ask them basic questions, then put together a proposal, throw it at them, and get the sale. Sometimes people will do the CNA and then try to make the sale right then. The point of the CNA is not the sale. If you do a CNA well, you will get the sale. If you create the desire, you'll get the sale. If you put together a bang up campaign, you'll get the sale. Right? But the point of the CNA is to get that information, build rapport, find out the budget. So you got these other goals, right? Don't worry about the sale until it's time to sell. When you make your presentation of your proposal, that's when you sell. Most of the sales process is not selling until that last thing. So then what kind of questions should I be asking? If you're always saying smart questions, what are smart questions? Okay. Don't ask questions to which you already know the answer. So what do you do at your bank? You already know what banks do. If you're going to have a limited time to ask some really good questions to develop a campaign, what do you do here at your bank, or what do you do here at your car dealership? You already know the answer to that. If you don't, go onto their website, do your homework. Oh, I'm looking at this banking website. Let's see. They want you to open a checking account. They want you to open a savings account. Oh, look, there's about 7 different kinds of savings accounts. There's high yield. Oh, look, there's one for parents and grandparents, a 529, where they save for a child's college education. They want you to take out a mortgage. They want you to take out an auto loan. They want a personal loan. Look at all the things they sell, right? Now they want to put all that in one ad for all your banking needs. Not helpful, right? But in your CNA, you could say, which of these products that you sell gives you the greatest return on the investment you make? When a customer comes in, which makes you the most money? Which of these are you wanting to prioritize? Because some of them are seasonal, right? A lot of babies are born in the fall because people get busy in the winter months, right? So if newborns and babies come up in the fall, it'll be a great time to focus on those 529 plans to save for a child or grandchild's college fund. And you could focus in September on that. And then October, you could focus on getting your auto loan through the bank or credit union instead of through the dealership, because that's always a bad idea. And then in November, I don't know, high yield savings account. In December, they've got open up these other things. Then each month you're moving a product. But the question isn't what kind of products do they have? You already did the homework, It's which of these would you like to target first? Do any of these have a time of year that's better for you? And again, like when a customer comes in and opens a checking account, what's the value of that customer over a lifetime to you? How much money do you make off that? How much money do you make off of a savings account? How much money do you make off of a mortgage, right? So you're starting to look at the return on the investment for them. If I can help them move a mortgage, and if I help them move a car loan, then I can calculate how much money that client is worth and juxtapose it against what they're spending with us, right? So those are kind of the smart questions. Don't ask questions to which either you already know the answer, just to hear what they're going to say, or which a quick Google will answer for you. You really want to focus on questions that only this particular prospect would know the answer for. What's important to you? What do people need to know about you today? What do you want to do first? Why? Why this one first, right? These are the smart questions that make them think about, what's coming up in July that we would want to focus on, and why July? Okay. And by the way, when you follow up with a client sometimes later, every 28 days or so, you're doing your customer service, you do a little mini CNA. So what's changed since last time we talked? What's coming up that we haven't talked about before? Like, oh, I don't know, a bankruptcy like 23andMe. What does that mean for your business, right? So what's changing? Maybe a competitor went in down the street. What does that mean for your business? And how do we adjust your campaign to target that? Because people want to hear about it, right? If I had an auto dealer as an advertiser right now, I wouldn't be talking and having them advertise about we've got the biggest selection or we've been here for 60 years and we're family owned and operated, which nobody cares about. I'd be saying what the consumer is worried about is what is the effect of the tariffs going to have on your car sales and on my purchase. That's what I need a commercial about. And some of these folks ordered a lot of cars knowing tariffs were coming. So they could be talking about, whether on air, print, or whatever, we've got cars at pre-tariff prices, but you need to come now because we won't have them for long. Now, a consumer's be like, oh, I was going to wait until, oh, I don't know, this summer after my kid graduates to buy him a car as a graduation gift. But that's a bad idea because I need to go buy one of these pre-tariff cars now because over the summer the prices are going to go up, right? By May, it may be $10,000 more, even for a Kia. So I'm going to buy it now and just park it around the corner or whatever, right? So when you're thinking about your questions, I like to say there's no right questions. People say, what are the best questions? What are the right questions? It's like, no, that varies by the kind of business you're talking to. If it's a med spa, okay, which of the procedures you do, Botox or whatever, bring you the biggest return on investment? How often does a customer come back? That's another thing that we ask you. Restaurants, med spas, anything with a repeat business is where the money is. So you don't have to bring up 600 new people a month. It's like, okay, if each customer comes back twice a month, and they spend an average of, let's say, $25. And if I get you 10 new customers, that's $50 each just this month. And then next month, they're going to come back and spend another $50. Plus I bring you 10 new ones. That's $50 from them. So that's a couple $100 from each of them, right? And then the next month, I bring you 10 new ones, and the ones from the previous month are going to come back twice. So $50 each times 10 people. You start, by the way, bring your calculator, start doing the math, and they start seeing that for the money they're investing in their advertising, there's starting to be a return on the investment. And you do the math, they're like, oh, this is why I need to keep advertising. See, here's one of the secrets that people forget to tell you, and that is most of our advertisers don't actually know how advertising works. In fact, a lot of us out there selling it don't seem to know much how it works. You got to stay on long term. If you're open, you need to be telling people you're open. And every month you need to give them a different reason why they should come and buy from you. Think McDonald's. Sometimes you'll talk to someone and say, everybody knows we're here. It's like, yeah, I know where McDonald's is. I know the one closest to my house. I know what they serve. I know roughly how much it costs me. If I say McDonald's French fries, you can all taste it. Now, if I'm going to be really mean, I can say, ooh, cold McDonald's French fries. See, you can taste that too. Mean, right? No. Okay. Hot apple pie, right? Now, okay. Sorry I did that to you. Not really. Sorry, not sorry. Okay. But notice McDonald's still spends billions of dollars a year advertising. Why? Because every time they stop, their sales drop. Because that's how it works. They have to stay on to stay top of mind. And because if they stop advertising, boy, Wendy's, Burger King, all those guys are out there saying, hey, we have a new chicken sandwich, or we have a new dipping sauce for nuggets. We have something. And notice your McDonald's advertising, they advertise one thing per ad. The Quarter Pounder does not also talk about the Big Mac. Right now we're coming into Easter, it's all filet o fish. The only time of year they talk about it. But I know they still sell nuggets. Right? So with an advertiser, like, oh, but if I only do one thing per ad, people will think we don't do this anymore. It's like, no, people aren't stupid. Well, okay. Yes. Yes, people can be stupid, but they aren't that stupid. If you were talking Botox for your med spa last month, and this month you're talking collagen injections or liposuction, they still know you do Botox because you were talking about it and you had something to say about it, right? So don't put them all in one. So when people want to know what the right question is, there aren't any. It's just what's going to help you with that client. Now, I have and can send you a list of great questions to ask, but that doesn't mean just go down this list and play 20 questions. Are these questions good for your prospect? Go ahead and use them. But again, go on their website. Go look up some of the trade publications for their industry where they're talking about what's going on in their industry and they're having the problems and they're sharing things they learned at their conferences about heating and air conditioning. And boy, that'll tell you what they're talking about. And boy, you can come up with some great questions about that based on what you see them writing about in their own news publications, et cetera. So do the homework to come up with a question so they're not so basic. You want to ask smart questions, and questions like, what advantages you have over your competitors. Okay, and get them to be specific in that, right? We're the friendliest is not helpful. Can the competitor say that? Sure. Okay, that's out. What are some of the advantages competitors have over them? Because you're going to want to target those kind of things, right? So as we move on, I know I'm kind of picking up time and I tend to talk fast anyway, but smart questions are specific questions. Sometimes we think, well, if I get general and I just kind of get the big picture, then they can't pin me on anything and there's a better chance of success. And the fact is, that's not how it works. People want to know, think of yourself as a consumer. You look at the back, you look at the ingredients on things. You want to know why this product over that product. Go in, you're going to buy some hair products and you pick up a couple. Why this? Ooh, this one's for dry hair. Ooh, this one's for oily hair. I know which one to pick. Or, ooh, this one smells like peaches. Ooh, don't like that. Ooh, this one smells like pomegranate. I'll buy that one, right? Why this one over that? And there's a whole brand I won't touch in the hair care department because the commercials were so terrible. And a decade ago, I still won't buy their product. So what are the benefits of people choosing your business? That's a great question. And then let them answer that. Don't get one answer and say, okay, and move on. Then ask about what they just said. Now, some of us have what the French call the esprit d'escalier, the spirit of the stairs. That's when 20 minutes later, you're going down the stairs, you're like, oh, I should have asked. I didn't ask that, right? If we've had an argument later, oh, I should have said that. Later, we say it in the car during an argument where they're not there. Or is that just me? No, it can't just be me. Okay, so we get that. Remember, you're going to come back and you're going to be following up with them and you're going to be seeing how that advertising campaign is doing. So you can ask it later. Or you can come back one day and say, hey, I thought of another question. And then just ask them. Send them an email. It's okay to ask it later if you forgot to ask it now, but try to remember. So if they say something useless like our quality and our service, which is pointless because everybody says they have the greatest quality and the best service, right? What do they mean by that? Well, let's put some verbs in that. What is it about your service that makes people come to you? And if they say something like, it's the friendliest, what does that mean? Walk me through that. You'll generally find they have nothing else to say. Okay, so what else about your service makes people come to you? And you keep asking until they finally give you something to sink your teeth into and that you could use. They like to give these things I'm talking about, they give you brochure answers. They're kind of glib. They put it in the brochure. It doesn't mean anything, right? So you have to keep asking, and that's what gets them thinking. What else about that? What else about that? Can you be more specific? Can you give me an example? Let's put some verbs in that sentence, okay? One of my favorite things to get them going. So the same thing happens when you ask, what is it you're trying to do here, right? And so often I see presentations that people are going back with, and the prospect is saying, we want to enhance awareness of our store. We want to increase traffic. We want to have more sales. And that's what's coming back. And then I'll ask the presenter, say, wait. When they say they want to enhance awareness, what do they mean by that? What's the current awareness of their business in the market? They probably can't tell you. And when they say enhance it, well, by how much? And how do they measure that? How will you know if we've helped you enhance the awareness? How will you know? And if they say something like, we just know, you can't work on it. They say, well, let's find something that we can be more specific about. The client, when they want you to enhance awareness, it's too generic and they're setting you and themselves up for failure. Now, not intentionally. Again, a lot of them have no idea how this really works. So you come in and you're asking questions and they find this painful and boring, by the way, because the questions are dull, but also they don't know what to tell you. So it becomes a game of 20 questions, right? And what do you do here at your med spa? Oh, well, wait, what do you do at your urgent care center? Well, colds and flus and the kid who gets a marble stuck in his nose. And you're like, you already know this, right? So what is the most popular thing? How do the seasons have to have an effect? What gives you the best money back? Maybe in the summer we do need to talk to the mom whose kid jumps off the roof or shoves a marble up his nose and gets it stuck there. Those are great ads, by the way. If you're in broadcast, it's like, oh, I can already hear and see those, right? Good fun. But they can at least track the mom who keeps bringing that same kid in, and then the value of the return visits, right? They love those kids, by the way, who keep being brought in because, they're death defying. When they say, well, we want to increase store traffic, does it matter if 50 people come in and buy one thing you're advertising, or if one person comes in and buys 300 of them? Say the one person with 300, that's a bigger deal. Speed and I were talking, and it's that we want, more people who buy more. He'll jump in later, and there's a third thing, but I can't think of it at the moment because I'm actually under caffeinated, right? But it's like you get more people coming in, increases your sales, or people coming more often, or people who come in and buy more of it. That's the way the business bounces, right? So if they want to increase traffic, well, what's your current traffic? How many people per day come in and make a purchase? And then what are they buying? Are they coming in and buying a small French fry and leaving? Or are they coming in buying the burger, the fry, and then upgrading to a chocolate shake instead of a soft drink?
Hey, Brandis, I wanted to jump in
Yes.
real quick because you were so stinking close.
I
I look
know.
at it this way. I always ask people, more people, walking through the door more often, right? If they come in 3 times a year, 4 times a year versus once, and more stuff, more
There.
items per customer, more dollars per purchase. So more people, more often, more stuff. You're probably on the right track. So
Yeah.
bye.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
That's
eating
the thing
some
I love about
cold
speed.
fries right now, by the way. So
Good. My plan is working. Right? Yeah, that more people, more stuff, more people, more often, more stuff. That's what we were talking about. And I just like that it's okay. Don't use me as an example. It's easy to remember. And then, of course, I couldn't remember. More people, more often, more stuff, right? Hey, you're supposed to learn something new every day, right? So here we are. Okay, so if they want to increase traffic, there's follow-up questions. What's your current traffic? How many people each day come in and buy, and how much do they spend on average, right? And how much do you want to increase that by? I tell you, if they're giving you $500 a month but want to triple the traffic, that's not doable. They're setting you up for failure. So this is another reason you're asking the questions, because you want to make sure that what they want you to do is doable. Was talking to somebody last week who has an assisted living property, and they want to double their occupancy. Well, that brings a lot of questions like, why is the current occupancy as it is? If you double it, what happens? Double it over what kind of timeline? Because they may be wanting to advertise for 2 months. Well, that cannot be done. Putting your parent in an assisted living center, or a person deciding to sell their home and move into one, that's not an impulse buy. That is not French fries, right? So is that doable? And over how long? And that's questions for the client. How long would it take to double the occupancy? So that it's like, when a person comes in and they look at it, out of every 10 that come in and take the tour, how many actually buy? And how long does that take? What's the buying cycle like? Because they may not be advertising with you anymore when those people buy, and then you don't get the credit, right? And if they're going to make a decision to work with your publication or your station or whatever to advertise a product like that, that's got to be long term, because that's a long-term purchase. That's not an impulse buy like, French fries. And more sales. We want to increase our sales. Okay, what are your current sales? How much do you want to increase them by? Otherwise, you will be assigned something. Right, that cannot be done, or cannot be done for the amount of money they're spending, or cannot be done for the length of time, because again, they don't know how to do this. So they tend to come in and spend too little money for too short a term, and then say, well, it's not really working. Well, that's not how advertising works, right? When you think about McDonald's, think about, how did you become aware of McDonald's? Most of us have no clue. Our parent probably took us when we were just toddlers, right? We're aware of the ads. I can sing their jingles from like 20, 30 years ago, because that repetition, it's got that familiarity with me, right? But I have no idea how I heard about them. And by the way, for tracking and measuring results, they want to say, well, we'll ask people how they heard about us. That's garbage. They need a better way, such as being specific in the ad. So people come in and ask for what you're talking about in an ad, right? You need people to be specific, because that's how you track and measure. If I'm pushing the Lincoln Navigator at my Lincoln dealership and the sales of my Navigators go up, I know it's working. Even if someone comes and looks at the Navigator and then goes and buys a Volvo off my used car lot, I still get credit for that, right? If I'm doing a restaurant, I'm focusing on specific items on the menu that are popular. I watch the sale of my tikka masala go up one month, and next month the panak paneer begins to go up, and then the next month the butter chicken goes up, and the others kind of stay up and drop like this. But you can see what's going up each month and rising and falling by what they're advertising. By the way, McDonald's does that. They track the sales, maybe not to a specific one, but if we're advertising the quarter pounder, the sales of the quarter pounder go up. That's why every so often they come back with that horrible McRib thing. And I'm not even sure that's food. And they put it out there and they watch the sales of it go through the roof, but they don't keep it forever because it doesn't stay that way. It just drops off. So that's why now it's considered special, which is a reason not to eat it, because if it won't stay up there, you probably don't want to eat that. Okay, so what I'm talking about is filleting people down. They throw an answer out at you, and it's okay to not respond to that right away. I like to record people in the CNA with their permission, but I also bring a legal pad and I write everything down. I take notes because sometimes I'm thinking of a question I haven't asked yet. But it also, as I'm writing it down, it makes me pause while they answer, and even for a moment afterwards, which makes me look thoughtful. And but it gives me a chance to take that moment and think, what's the follow-up question? It's okay not to come right back with another question. Remember, listening is not about waiting to talk. It's okay for there to be silence. They answer and you're writing, and then they may say, ooh, and another thing, and what they're about to say is probably very important. Or you can think of a follow-up question. Why is that? How often does that happen? What does it make your customers ask this or do this? Ask the whys and the wherefores of that, but fillet them down to the very bones of everything. And if you need to set up a second client needs analysis, that's okay. They give you 20 minutes of their time. You ask some great questions. Say, you were telling me so much. And man, they're like, yeah, I'm really excited about this. And say, I have some more questions, but I want to be mindful of your time. Let's set up a second meeting like this and kind of go through some more, because I want some time to kind of think over this to make sure I've got everything right before I come back with a proposal. See, you're not worried about the sale and they don't feel the pressure. They're like, wow, this person's willing to take the time to get it right and make sure it's something that'll work before they're trying to ask me for the money. So slow your roll. It's okay. It's okay if you sell them 2 days later, right? So the kind of thing you're looking for them to do. They want to increase sale per customer, grow a particular demographic. You can see the things I have listed here. I'm not going to read them all because you could read, right? But what is it they're trying to do and the why, and how do we make it happen? If we want to position against the competitor, well, which competitor? What are they doing? How do you want to position? What specifically do you have to do? There's a lot of questions just over that answer. I want you to help me position against the competitor. Don't move on with it. And I also want to improve public perception. Let's go back to positioning against your competitor and let's talk about that, because you can probably come up with a dozen questions on how are we going to do that and what will work as you work this along, right? So here's a client giving me the competitive advantage. They say, we have a large inventory of new and used cars. Great. See, that's nice and generic. We have a complete parts and service department. We have competitive pricing and a well-trained sales staff. You're like, great, I roll all 4 down. Okay. Now, I would take this and say, these are great. I'm already thinking, man, there's 4 commercials. I worked in radio, right? So 4 commercials is what I'm thinking. Now, if you're in print, you're in digital, right? And listen, digital is part of print and broadcasting. Digital is part of what we do. There's all kinds of like, ooh, is that a video? Is that a banner ad? And how long are we going to run that? Right? Is that a mobile? Is that a geofencing? We can do this stuff, right? But when you say large inventory of new and used cars, tell me about that. What do you mean by large? Because everybody defines that differently. What do you mean by large? What's the turnover? By the way, with auto dealers right now, the turnover right now is 85 days per month, which would not be good, except right now that means a lot of pre-tariff cars. I have to go back to that because if you have auto dealers, that's what people want them to talk about, right? But that large inventory of new and used, what's the turnover on that? How long is that going to be? Is this a good or bad thing? Why do people care about a large inventory? Because they're only going to buy 1 car. It's not like I'm going to go in there and buy 5. They say, well, many of our customers come in and they're kind of brand agnostic. I used to go to CarMax and like, I don't know what I want. So let's go look at Saturn and Mazda and Toyota. I bought a Saturn, right? But I was willing to look at a large selection because I knew my price range, but I I'm brand agnostic. I'm not like, I'll only drive a Toyota. My mother was that, right? Camry, whatever. I've never owned a Camry. She went to her grave very upset at me about this. Okay, back to this. Complete parts and service department. What does that mean? What does that mean for the customer? Why should someone bring their car to you for any repair? Because you're a dealership, you charge more. What is the benefit of that to a customer? Competitive pricing. We think we know what that means. They think they know what that means. What does that mean? Because if you're going to do a whole print ad or a digital campaign based on competitive pricing, you got to put some verbs in that. What do you mean by that? So you're going to have a lot more words. Explain that to me as if I were like 21 and buying my first car. What does that mean to my budget? Especially now when people's budgets are tight. The price of eggs is like $7 a carton. So what do you mean? Because buying a car may be out of my range. I don't care how competitive you think you are. So again, ask these questions. Well-trained sales staff. Tell me about their training. What do you mean by well-trained? What do they go through that qualifies them for that? Because man, you can do a whole campaign just on that, man. And I've got 4 ads here. I could probably turn every one of these into 2 or 3 more ads with something to say about it. So again, the client needs analysis. I'm not worried about the sale. I'm worried about the information to say, can I put together a campaign that will get this client what they say they want? Will it do what they're asking? Because I've got enough information to know how to do it, what to do it, why it would work, to find some research that supports that to put into my proposal, and for them to track and measure those results so they know it's working. Once I have all that, then I put together a presentation, come in and present it to them. Here's what you wanted to do specifically. Here's what we can do. Here's how it's going to work. And here's how much it's going to cost. If that's too much money for them, then you say, well, then let's take out whatever can wait and bring that price down. Speaking of the money, part of the client needs analysis is about the return on their investment. How do you keep people advertising long-term or actually to invest more money up front? Like we did with the 10 new customers every month. What's the value? What's the value at your spa for the hot rock massage in winter, right? How much is that worth, and how often do they come back? How often do they tell friends, especially if it's chicks, right? You ever notice women go to the bathroom in packs? Right. Guess what we're talking about? I had this great hot rock massage. Really? Where? And then 9 others of us go there, right? So ask them these questions. How much is a customer worth to you over time? If we go back to the restaurant and the 10 new customers every month, spending 25 each time, and they come back twice a month, you start seeing how that money builds up until within 6 months, their advertising expense has now become a revenue stream. It's not outgo, it's income. Now, if they're always doing short term and the messaging they're sending to consumers is generic and doesn't give people a reason to come there and buy this or do this at their place of business as soon as possible, then you're already set up for failure. It's never going to work. But you get that return on investment. They start saying, oh, but if I go long term, I start seeing how the money starts coming back, and you create Stockholm syndrome, right? I had clients spending $100,000 a year, but making a 2-for-1 return on the investment. If someone say, why are you on that station? He says, I can't afford to leave. The Brandeis, she's a pill. She makes me so mad because she tells me things I don't want to hear, or she won't let me do what I want. But if I quit, I'm going to lose $100,000 a year. By the way, within 3 years, he was going to lose $200,000 a year. He was spending $200,000, a 2-for-1 return on his investment, $400,000. He would lose $200,000 a year in profit if he quit. So, sometimes he'd get mad and yell, get out. I'm like, okay, you got my number. And then he'd call back in a couple weeks. Okay, come back in. You made me so mad. Most of my clients did not get that mad at me, but sometimes, you got to tell them the truth. So what does that bring us down to? Again, what's the most important thing people need to know about you and your business today? And every time you come in every 28 days to change something up, what's the most important thing they need to know today? It's not that they're family owned and operated, so don't let them give you that. It's not that they're the friendliest or the best. Talking to someone this week who's actually got a client that's a parking lot near the Port of Baltimore. Why should people park at your parking lot? And the guy said, we're the closest to the docks, right? And we provide a free shuttle. I said, okay, so how many people stop at a further away lot because they assume your lot's going to be full? They don't even bother to come all the way up. Oh, see, yeah, there was an answer for that. So why should we come all the way up and check? Because you might be full. What's the security like if I leave my car here for 5 days to go on a cruise, right? I want to know about that. That free shuttle, hey, I'm a chick. I got to think about my security. So if I'm going to walk to the docks from my car with all my suitcases and my purse and I'm distracted, and I'm a target. I know this. So they said, oh, wait, you provide a free shuttle service to and from? Safety. See, already there, you got 3, 4, fiber, radio, TV, ads, print, ads, digital, ads, right? Geofence that. Hey, how many spaces are open? Can you do that? Can somebody be coming near your parking spot and on the phone they have it up and it says we have 7 open spaces? Could we do that? Why not? Then they know to keep on coming. It's worth the check, right? What do they need to know? I don't care if they're family owned and operated for their parking spot. I care about what's in it for me. Okay, so winding this down because I know we want to open up for questions. A successful client needs analysis, you want to ask smart, specific questions. So no generic, no nothing you already know or nothing you could just Google, right? Let the client talk. You should not talk more than 15% of the time. And as you can tell from me, that nearly kills me. But it's like, no talking. They should do 85% of the talking. My 15% is my questions, or sometimes that's a great thing. Tell me more, the follow-up to that. And do not sell anything ever during the client needs analysis. It's not about the sale. You're going to screw up the sale if you say, "Ooh, we can do that," or our morning show, or our digital thing, or our newspaper, or our widgets, or whatever it is. You start interrupting them and you start pitching. Hate the word pitch because immediately you're in the wrong position. The client shuts down, either takes money off the table or doesn't buy it all. You've seen them do it. You see that window over their face, they just shut down. So again, what are your 6 goals? Your questions need to build the rapport, get them excited about working with you, find out specifically what kind of needs they are, specifically, not brand awareness, okay? What do they mean by that? Find that budget, the ROI. How much are these guys worth? Okay, how many can I get in here? How much money does that bring back to you? You'll figure out the budget, right? Developing the campaign and whether it's broadcast, media, digital, whatever, kind of developing how this is going to work long term, right? And learn their talking points. Learn what they talk about to customers. I go into a furniture store, the guy walking up to me to sell me a couch does not talk about them being family owned and operated. He just doesn't. In fact, he does a little mini CNA on me, right? So I know it was a lot. I know it's like drinking from a fire hose. My information is here. bhall@bchspeaks.com. Feel free to shoot me an email. You've got my cell number there. Feel free to call. If it goes to voicemail, I will get back to you. Do a little bit better every day. It's not a miracle. It takes time to build the skills. If you forgot, I could ask this, come back again. Come back, call them up, send them an email. Do a little better every day. And don't forget to have fun. Because if you're having a good time, people want to get on board with you. So let's open it up for some questions here. Sherry, thank you.
Good. Hey, good job. That's such wonderful information. And we have had a couple of questions. One thing I wanted to get you to comment on that I think sometimes we all forget is the residual benefit of doing this with our clients is this. Our clients in many cases, and I've had sellers say to me, I was surprised when I asked the questions that they didn't always know. Well, they're nose down trying to manage cash flow and employees and product and all this. They're not thinking about the things that we want them to think about. Right. And so by asking these questions, we're getting the benefit as the person in the market that's forcing them to think about their business a little differently. And I'd love your thoughts on that, because I think sometimes we miss the fact that that's one of the powerful things about doing these.
Yeah, they are distracted. And when we're coming in to talk to them, they've set an appointment, they've given us some of their precious time. And I say this often, time is everyone's most precious commodity now. So if you get the appointment, do not be careless. I mean, first of all, don't ghost them. I've seen sellers do this. They don't show up, or they do not show up late, even on the phone or a Zoom meeting. You got to be specific at a time, because they are doing 27 other things. And if they lent you some of their time, you better make good use of it. So again, good questions, because if you're asking stupid questions or simplistic or something that's it's boring them, It's an insult to them. You're going to start losing that sale. So their knows that if they don't know the answer when you ask something that, I've had them say, but I'll find out. In fact, I had a guy here in Dallas who'd been a successful mattress retailer for 25 years. And boy, he knew everything. He's like a car dealer owner, you know, knew everything. And I said, why do people come to you? And he says, well, you know, we're the friendliest. We went through all that. I kept coming back, filleting it down to, okay, well, why do people come to you? Why? And as I would just shoot everything that, can your competitor say that? Can anyone else in the market? Well, yes. Okay, let's put that to the side. Why else do people come to you? And finally, he froze. You know, I swear I saw little drops of blood appear on his forehead because he looked at me and he was like, I don't know. He was looking into the abyss, realizing I've been successful and I have no idea why people even come in here. He says, but I'll have an answer for you Thursday. And the next 2 days, he was on that floor when customers came and say, what brought you in today? What brought you in today? What brought you in today? When I came back, he had a better answer of what actually was bringing people in. Yes.
Hey, Brandeis, Speed, she had a perfect transition there to a question that we got.
Yeah.
So you mentioned clients asking, how did you hear about us? The question was, I'm getting that a lot.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little more?
Yeah, listen, since I worked in radio for so many decades, anytime I got a survey or someone would ask me how I heard about them, I would say radio. Even if I knew for a fact they didn't advertise on radio, I would say radio, right? So generally people don't know. And you do have clients who think they know how this works, and they'll say, how about if we have them say your call letters? They come in, they say your call letters, and we'll give them a 10% discount. Then we'll know. And it's like, no, people would rather do the hokey pokey naked in public than say the call letters. They feel like a grifter. They'll say, you know, KJCR. They really don't want to. There's a few who have no shame, but 80, 90%, I'm making up that statistic, by the way, but that doesn't mean it's not true. Okay.
Well, one time in college, I danced naked doing the hokey pokey, and you will not let it go.
You're labeled for life. You're labeled for life.
My eyes. Oh yeah. So I got pictures, by the way. Yeah. So the more specific you are in what they're trying to do, the better. When people come in and buy that, ask about that, mention that. That's how they can track and say, I know how they heard about us, because the only place we're talking about that is the newspaper, this digital campaign, radio. It's why it makes me crazy when agencies will put the same ad on 15 stations and then call a salesperson and say, it's not working on your station, give us bonus spots. And I'm like, how do they know? It's the same commercial everywhere. Now, the great thing about live and local is generally you're only talking about what they talk about with you. If they're going to be on another station, they should advertise something completely different. Then they know which one is working better. And if it's not working, it's like, well, don't forget to ask, what time do people come in and buy this? And if they come in at 3 o'clock, when did they make the decision? Did they decide this morning and come into that? So now I know when and where to be hitting them on those decision-making times of day before they even get there. And people can judge that.
One thing you brought up that really just nailed, I mean, first of all, is ask meaningful questions if you want meaningful answers.
Yeah.
But when the people who talk about, we've been in business now for 35 years at this dealership, or we have this huge selection of cars. But when you brought up that, hey, we're stocking up right now, buying as many pre-tariff cars as we possibly can, so we can make sure that we've got you covered. Considering we're making decisions 90 days down the road, that's great information. I wrote that one down and that's awesome.
Yeah, if the dealership says, screw our selection, this is the time to buy because the prices will go up 90. Yeah, the tariffs hit on the 2nd, but that doesn't mean our prices went up. We've still got 90 cars that we can sell you at pre-tariff price. I mean, that's a reason for someone to go. And when they come and say, okay, I need to buy a car now and not wait because you have pre-tariff prices, now he knows, oh, I know exactly where that person just came from because I know the one place I'm saying that.
I mean, that one little piece of advice will buy you a McRib and some cold fries right there. That's
right.
awesome.
Well,
let's can't get a Sunday because the machine is broken. But
let's take one more question and we'll kind of wrap this up. You all brought up the fries. I did write down that you're the first speaker I've ever heard that tied too many fries right into assisted living. So I don't know if there's something there or not, but yeah, I did write that down.
If you DoorDash from the assisted living center, by the time you get the fries, they're cold.
Okay.
There we go.
Hey,
Go.
we got this question, and I want to give you and Speed both a chance to address it. It said, my major problem is a competitor. They're undercutting my price by around 60%. How
Yeah.
can I convince a customer that the little money they're spending is actually a waste of their dollars?
Okay. Yeah.
A little different question, but I think
But no, it
important.
absolutely matters. And it does tie back to that client needs analysis. Listen, if everybody's just dropping their prices, it's a race to the bottom. And you become a commodity like toilet paper. You don't want to, we watch, Walmart was killing people years ago when they dropped all their toys at Christmas time to a loss for them. It's called a loss leader. It was to get people in the store to buy the Barbie. So, because they knew if you were at Walmart, you're also going to buy towels, plates, you're going to buy it. That's where they made the money, right? So, if your competitors dropping prices, this is about value, not price. Listen, a Volkswagen is a great German car. So is a Mercedes. You cannot buy a Volkswagen for the price of a Mercedes. A top line Volkswagen, a top line Mercedes, there's value in them, even though they both have terrific German engineering. Okay, BMW the same. So what's the difference? Why do people want to buy one over the other? The price conscience goes for the Volkswagen. They're not going to get a Mercedes. But that person who buys a top line Mercedes, it's not about the money. So when you're asking smart questions, you're positioning yourself as different than that competitor. When they're doing short term, they say, I'm concerned. I get that they're cheap, but sometimes you get what you pay for. What kind of return are you getting on the investment? What kind of return are you getting? And when they're like, I don't know, it's like, well, did that person not work with you on how you can know? How do you know these either commercials or ads are working for you? I don't know. Okay, so was there no talk about measuring or tracking? Okay, yes, we cost more, but we're going to make sure you know it's working. It's going to be far more specific. You got to think longer term, because this short term thing you're doing, I just say you're wasting your money. Your advertising budget will be perpetually outgo and never income. And advertising done right should always be a source of income rather than outgo. It may take us 6 months to get there, but once it's rolling, if you stick with it, if you message clearly and you message specifically and give people a reason to do this and think long term, it will become a source of revenue for you, not an expense item. And see if that conversation makes them, at least they may not come over immediately. They may wait out that other contract, but they're thinking, wait a minute, how do I know it's working? I don't know. When it comes up for renewal, they will not renew. And they will come to you and say, okay, you were talking differently. Let's go through the process. And by gum, your process better be different than the other people's. You better be thinking how to do it right. So if you're not sure yourself, start reading up and watching videos and, get on LinkedIn, people who talk about how advertising works. There's no reason to not know anything nowadays. We have the interwebs. Go on and learn.
And I appreciate you talking about the World Wide Web. There's this little thing called 10-Minute Trainer Network that addresses some of that as well. So
we'll tell you how to do it at 10 minutes at a time.
Hey, Speed, your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a variation on that theme. The thing is, if we both come back in, brand X is coming in and what they have to offer is a cheap price. You come back in after you've done the CNA. And what I always like to do is when I wrap up the CNA, I want to actually circle the one that I feel that I can help them with. Okay. And I want to have an agreement with them that I said, okay, you listed 5 pain points, but this is the one that I know I can help you with. And it appears to be the one that's keeping you up at night. Am I on the right track here? Yes. Cool. I'll be back 1 week from today. When you come back in, I'm going to come back in, but I start off as a copywriter. That's where I love to live. I'm going to address that need in a message. And, sometimes I could get it recorded in advance. Sometimes I would just dramatically read it to them, which is, I think, better because you can change it on the fly.
Right.
But then I'm coming back into, here's a solution. By the way, here's my price point. Now, all of a sudden, they're actually purchasing something other than cheap rate. And if you're right, if they do make the decision, decide to go with the other guy, they're not going to get the renewal because you still got the answers, which, by the way, AI makes us all much better copywriters. So don't freak out if you can't write a spot,
Yeah, shockingly so. Yeah. There's always a cheaper doctor who will give me a pill that doesn't do jack for me.
Right.
So I'd
Exactly.
rather pay more for the doctor who will give me medicine and ask me questions and give me something that will solve the problem. And if I have another problem later, I'm going to go back to that same doctor who helps me solve the problem rather than says, I got these cheap pills. They won't do anything for you, but they're
Okay,
cheap.
so I'm getting
Oh, wrap it
the wrap.
up. Yes.
Hey, the reality, there's always going to be people that focus more on what they're spending than what they're getting.
Yeah.
But the only thing I would add there is for the person to ask the question, focus on the value, and Brandis and Speed have said, focus on what you can give them.
Yeah.
Super deliver on your value, and try to move them away from just focus on what they're spending and more on what they're getting.
Some people you
Brand,
can't help, and that's okay. If you realize you can't help them, walk away. It's okay to walk away.
Okay, so I'm getting this. This will be edited up on the network to view by early next week. We'll get this up. Brandis, you're the best.
Great fun.
We love you. We look forward to doing it more. Brandis always brings the swagger. We love your spirit. We love your knowledge. We love the way you deliver it. We look forward to doing more.
Yes.
And to all of you all out there, thanks for being with us, and we'll have more for you soon. Speed, final thoughts?
Absolutely. Brandis, we've worked together for a number of years, and you're one of those trainers that I sit here and just take a page full of notes every time. So, and then I steal it and use it and sell it.
Yes, R&D, rip off and duplicate. I believe in R&D.
So thank you so much, and we're so excited to have you on our team. It's great to have you, and we'll be talking soon.
All right. Bye, everyone.
All right. Okay. Have a great week. Swagger on.
See you.